as I mentioned earlier, to review the 2019 meeting minutes. So give you guys just a chance to look over those, and then just a motion to approve those meeting minutes a second, and then we can get going with the bulk of the meeting here.
I'll make a motion to approve them.
Good.
I'll second.
Perfect. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Perfect. All right. Easy enough. So I didn't get any emails from anybody, committee members, non-committee members, on any additions to the agenda. Do we have any additions that we need to add today to the agenda, or is everything that we sent out look pretty good?
I think it looks good. You know, I mean, number 6, obviously, for how this season's going to work, just to review that. I think it's obviously a big one.
Yep. Yeah. We'll talk about that. Was Richard Judd, they've got a pretty important league meeting, I guess, that he's the league president. So he's getting ready for that. So he couldn't make it here today, but he and I spoke this morning. We've got a couple of things that we'll cover with the season C update, just some pieces on like a preseason meeting. We're going to go through a read through and some things like that I'll discuss later. But yeah, we'll talk about that. And if anyone has any items they want to bring up for season C, please feel free to do so while we get to 6.0. But Kathy, I know that you're in the meeting now, and I know that you have a busy day ahead of you outside of the CHSAA committee. So we did move you up to the front of the agenda. And if you are ready, Kathy, we'll let you go ahead and take the floor with the Coaches Association report.
Sure. I'm not really sure there's a whole lot to report since we haven't had a season. I think, and this is actually more of a question for you, is as we moved into this non-normal time for field hockey, have you heard from any programs? I have not, and I've emailed out some checks on any programs that are concerned about fielding teams for this March and April.
No, fortunately, we have not. I'll be the only communication that we've gotten were actually from the 2 schools that we had hoped would be coming on board this year. You know, because for those in the room, you know, we had the clock declarations that were recently, and Ponderosa and Northfield do anticipate coming on board 22-24, which was great news to me. I was, concerned that all the momentum that we had with those schools coming on board this year, which didn't happen because of COVID, would be lost. But it does sound like that Northfield in particular, and I know that Ponderosa does have the desire to also come on board 22-24. So we're hopeful that will happen.
So fall of 2022?
Would be, yes, fall of 22. Yes.
Okay, perfect. Okay, great.
Yes.
That it really is good news. Okay. So that was really my only thoughts going into this fall or this unusual spring season as far as teams go. And I haven't heard anything. I mean, I've emailed out just to check in on coaches, and I haven't heard any major updates. So.
Hey, this is going to be a really quick meeting. I thought the Coaches Association report was going to be the bulk of I There we go.
Oh, Richard. Oh no! Like I feel bad. Like maybe I'm not doing this right.
No, sure. No, I get it. There's not a like I said earlier, we have not played a game since our last meeting, so I understand. But it's good that I thought maybe some coaches would reach out with some concerns or any issues, but it sounds like everyone, at least for now, is that could change at any time. But everyone seems to be pretty good with everything.
Obviously, there are concerns, but they are all concerns that none of us have the answer to.
Sure.
So the concerns are, what is COVID going to look like in 3 weeks when we're beginning to jump into the season? How is spring break going to impact and all the travel that people are doing? How is that going to impact the season? We all have general concerns, but unfortunately, none of us here have the answers to that.
Right. Yeah.
It'll be a wait and see.
A lot of unknowns. We're hopeful. Things have trended in the right direction recently, and hopefully that continues, and we can can have a season that is, mostly
Justin,
unaffected. Yes.
I have just a quick question.
Of course,
if we're going to add 2 teams, that what bumps us to, that would be 16 or 17? 17. Well, we need to look at number of games allowed, because that makes it scheduling nightmare with one odd person out every week. But and who do you not play versus that? So it's throw that in the. I don't know if that's already crossed your mind, increasing by 1 game just to play everybody. I don't know if that's a possibility, but just something I thought of.
No, for sure. Obviously, when we had made the schedule for this year originally, if we can remember like 3 scheduling meetings back, I know it's hard to remember those schedules. We had just the 1 team, 16, which made it easy with 15 games. But now that we have 17, the work that we'll put in at the committee meeting next year will obviously be quite a bit more than this one. So we'll have to talk about that if we, propose adding 1 game to the schedule to play 16 games. If we want to break, into like 2 separate leagues. So that would be discussion for the next meeting, but that's something that we'll have to think about as we have, essentially a number of teams that would make it obviously difficult to schedule. This year, everyone plays, obviously a little bit more of a modified COVID schedule. Next year, we're hoping with 15 teams and a normal schedule that we'll go back to those original. We need to talk about a scheduling, but where you play everybody once and then somebody else a second time. So we'll discuss that for sure next year. And I don't know, Kathy, if you guys as Coaches Association have thought about that, but we'll like your input as well.
Yeah, we did a few years ago, actually it was quite a while ago, we did the whole breaking into conferences within, or what, I don't know, maybe it was groups. Well, either way, it was, we broke into 2 and we played everyone twice. I love the idea of adding another game to our schedule and just getting the girls being able to play everyone. I mean, it sounds like that might be a great way to go.
Yep. I think it's definitely possible, and we can certainly look to propose that to Legislative Council from this committee next year if those schools do in fact come on board, both of them. Then we can look to do that. I'm hopeful. So they both said that they're going to have it. Yeah, go ahead, Jason. Just
out of curiosity, and I'd be fine with another game too. But how does that work in terms of CHSAA and at the Legislative Council vote in terms of, would that make soccer and lacrosse and everybody go, why aren't we getting a game?
Yeah, potentially. Potentially.
I think I would turn around and argue that for them, right? Because there's a lot more teams.
Sure. Yeah, I think it's definitely possible. And listen, hey, if they wanted it, I'd be okay if schools and the sport, I oversee soccer as well, wanted additional games, I'd be okay with that. I'm all for, especially coming out of COVID. I keep telling people, some people are, obviously we've got some modifications and some restrictions on some stuff, which some felt was necessary, but I hate it. So I'm open to more and whatever the schools want once we can get out of this ridiculousness of COVID. I'm all for, opening things up more.
And Justin, just as a backstory, one of the main reasons why the conference system didn't quite work as well is because of the disparity in travel. And so one thing with soccer and lacrosse is that your conferences are established based on geography. And, and Russ would probably empathize with this the most. If there's a school and they're in a conference with teams that are further away, then there's that disparity in travel. And that's what ended up causing some of the issues. In field hockey just being so small, we don't have that luxury of saying, okay, everyone in this geographical region will be in a conference. So
sure. Yeah, it's, and we're trying to grow the sport. And so, I think we can, and listen, if other schools or sports wanted to look to add, we can certainly address that. But I think with the sport we're trying to grow, a female sport especially, if they were to get an extra game, I don't think too many people could argue that, but we'd be open to discussions on other sports as well. Anybody have any questions for Kathy, committee members? Okay, Kathy, anything else that you need to add, or are we good?
No, if anything pops up, I'll be quick to email you, Justin. And
perfect.
And I'm sorry, I I forgot who the new chair is. That Lance? I'm sorry.
Yep, Lance. Yep,
okay,
Lance McCorkle. Yep.
Yeah,
yep.
I'll email both of you.
Perfect.
If anything pops up or any concerns arise.
Perfect. All right. Becky, I know that you also teach in the morning, and so I know you're in and out. So I don't know if you're here, if you want to just kind of introduce yourself. I know there wasn't a whole lot from you and Larry that was going to be shared today, but if you just want to kind of come on and say a few things, please feel free to do so.
Sure. Hey, good morning, everyone. I'm Becky Petrie. I'm just sitting in for Larry. I don't really have anything to report. We're just here to help, support, really looking forward to the anticipated Season C coming up. That's it, Justin.
Okay. Becky, have you and Larry, I know it seems like for the most part, as far as number of officials, have you heard anything about, us losing any with COVID, or maybe we've gained some? I know in something like soccer, I was talking with the Officials Association. They feel like we might actually gain a few officials. How are numbers looking?
Good question. I don't know a total number. We have interest from about 4 or 5 new officials. Unfortunately, Larry has told me that he will not be officiating the season because he's concerned about exposure. Oh, but he will still be scheduling and acting as our president.
Okay. And it sounds like, talking with Larry, seems like all the games we've got those assigned. It looks like no issues that you know of from the Officials Association standpoint on getting.
I've looked through Arbiter, and Larry has uploaded the games into Arbiter. It looks, with only a 6-week season, some days we're going to need 8 officials with 4 higher level games on a certain day.
Yep.
So Larry will just do the best that he can scheduling. And it looks like there's quite a few Saturday games as well.
Yep. Yeah. Yes. And it seemed like in the initial conversations with Larry that everything seemed to be good. We seem to have, what I could tell, all the games assigned. He was great about getting those in there, and it looks like starting to assign officials. So I know that Regis had some movement to their schedule that they checked in with Larry on. It seemed to be no problem to get officials, which was a good sign. So that's all good news.
Yeah. Yep. So we're good to go.
Perfect. Does anybody have any questions for Becky before she hops off or kind of is in and out? All right. Perfect. Well, Richard could not make it today. I don't think he's on. Richard, if you did hop on, let me know. But I don't believe that he is on the meeting today. He and I spoke this morning, and a couple of things that'll kind of just blend in with 6.0, the COVID Season C update as well. Richard mentioned that we'll need to get, like we mentioned earlier, hopefully this is the last of this COVID modification scheduling stuff that we ever have to do. And Richard wants to get onto everyone's calendar a scheduling date for fall of 2021. So probably sometime, maybe in April. I can't remember when we originally did the meeting. I think it was like March or April. Kathy, remind me if you know exactly when we had that scheduling meeting last year in anticipation of March. Yeah.
Very beginning, because we used to do it in February, but we delayed it so that districts could have their district stadium schedule available for field hockey.
Yeah, we must have done it in March because everything shut down like in the middle of March. So yeah, it had to have been early March that we had that meeting. So Richard would like to get that back on the schedule. If you guys want to, I asked him to send an email out to all the committee members and just the field hockey ADs to get their thoughts. Obviously, as we hope to return back to full schedules next year, you guys may have a little bit of a delay as you start to think about maybe your fall football schedule, your fall soccer schedule. I know that it's not just as easy as flipping a schedule like it has been in the past. So if we need to push that field hockey scheduling meeting back a little bit farther so that you guys can start to get a better idea of what maybe your football schedules or your soccer schedules are going to look like. Any thoughts on that from any committee members? Do you think we'll need to push the field hockey scheduling meeting back so you guys can get a better idea of what your stadium schedules look like?
We don't even have our stadium schedule for Season D done.
I know. So maybe that's something that we look at. So I told Richard to email you guys. So just give him that feedback that we'll need a little bit of extra time, perhaps maybe an April meeting or later if we feel like it's necessary to get it right so that we can get everything else figured out around next year's hopefully return to normal schedule. So that'll come from Richard. Another thing he and I talked about, and again, this is kind of how it's going to blend in with the 6.0 there, but I feel the need, as we have with all the other sports that I've overseen that have happened so far. So ice hockey and swimming, we had a preseason meeting where we discussed COVID modifications. We addressed the bulletin, answered questions from coaches and administrators. I felt like that's been a very useful tool, and so we're gonna have it with field hockey as well, where we will do a couple of things. Richard wants to do a read through of our season C schedule, basically where he's just going to go over what Larry Zappone, our officials president, has in Arbiter, and then just to make sure that meshes with what you guys have on your schedule so that there's no issues that could arise throughout the season. We'll confirm that we have officials assigned. So we'll read through season C schedule. We will have a season C bulletin review where we'll go over the bulletin with coaches and administrators. And then we'll have the COVID modification review for those of you who are on the COVID modification group. That document that we came up with, we will review that with coaches and administrators, and then have a Q&A afterwards to kind of go over everything for the upcoming season. Obviously, it's going to be a little bit different than it's ever looked, so we'll be able to answer those questions for everybody. So that's kind of from Richard's report. A couple of things in 6.0 as far as the season C update. Just want to remind people of the dates. So we've got March 8th as the first practice date for season C. March 15th is the first competition date. April 22nd is the end of the regular season. The bracket will be out the very next day, April 23rd. And then we do want to remind people, those that maybe are watching on YouTube, or if you committee members can just get back to your coaches. Kathy, if you can really hammer this piece home with coaches, is we've got that coaches poll, which is now a piece of the seating. And so as we look to determine who that one at-large qualifier is this year, and then moving forward, obviously significant amount of at-large qualifiers, the coaches poll is going to be a big piece to that. And so we want to get them used to that. Ice hockey, we had in the first poll, probably it was hit or miss, maybe 50% of our coaches went ahead and did it. Ryan, Whitney, and I went ahead and really hammered home with emails to them to get them signed up, to get them to do it. We anticipate closer to 100% for week 2. But Kathy, we want field hockey to kind of set that example and have 100% participation with our coaches on that coaches poll. So that's a big one that we'll be wanting to hammer home.
One quick question. So you mentioned April 22nd. If I recall, back in the beginning of December, when there was the shift from the beginning of March to March 8th, the games that were in that original first week were automatically placed in the week of later in April. Yep. So I now have a game that got defaulted to April 29th. And I'm wondering how many schools also have that.
I think so. Larry should have gone in. Larry, Richard, and I met, and Larry corrected all those. And then that updated, and that updated schedule we sent out, that should have all been corrected. And then we just wanted to make very clear that any changes that you guys need to make individually, you're more than welcome to do so.
Right.
Because I think basically we just sort of said, okay, here's some dates that are, you're not playing back to back. We just try to sprinkle those games throughout your schedule.
Right.
With the understanding that you have the ability as a school to say that does not work for us, and you can change it. And just as long as Larry can get you officials, whatever changes you guys need to make is totally okay.
Okay, I just want to make sure that week
but that
was covered. Sounds like it was perfect.
Yes. Yep. Richard and I and Larry made sure to get that done and just sprinkle those games in there. So everyone just review, a reminder to review your schedule, and if you have any changes that you need to make, you can do so with Larry.
Hey, Justin, quick question.
Yeah, of course.
that schedule and bulletin COVID meeting, did you have a date for that?
We did not yet. Nope. So we'll get that on the schedule. We'd like to have the bulletin posted the next few weeks. We're still waiting there's still some back and forth with CDPHE on some of the variances for season C. And so, it's just as it was in the winter, we were hoping it wouldn't be as much back and forth as we go into an outdoor sport, but we've got some work still finalizing with them. And once we have those COVID variances approved, we'll get those into the bulletin and then we'll schedule the meeting. I don't want to schedule a preseason meeting until we get those approvals. So that I want to be able to tell coaches exactly what to expect around roster numbers. I want to be able to tell officials whether or not they're going to be wearing a mask. If players, will have to wear a mask, I don't anticipate that. So far, I've been pretty fortunate with the sports that I've submitted the variances for that we have not, even the indoor sports, ice hockey and swimming. So that's been pretty good. So I anticipate the modifications that the COVID committee put in place will satisfy CDPHE, and we'll be able to get going with very, very few in-game modifications to field hockey. So feel pretty good about that. Once that's approved, we'll get that meeting scheduled. Let's see here. I think that's pretty much it from as far as the season C updates, Richard's pieces. April 26th is the semifinals. April 27th is the final for field hockey. Right now, the plan is to keep All City Stadium as the host site. I know that Kathy, we had some coaches last year that said that they really liked the new surface that was put down at All City Stadium. I thought it was fast. It seemed to be very conducive to field hockey. So we want to keep that in play for coaches. Obviously, Denver Public Schools, probably a little bit more conservative, maybe than some other districts around COVID. So we've got the date in place at All City Stadium. But if that were to, if Denver Public Schools were to come back and say we're not allowing outside groups or something along those lines, maybe if they wouldn't allow spectators, I don't know what it'd be, that we'd have the ability to move venues. If anyone, Jason, maybe, I know we talked about last year with all the snow that we had, potentially moving to some venues in Cherry Creek School District. I'd like to leave those options open for this fall, this spring as well. All City Stadium's the plan, but we might need to go to a plan B if needed. And I think Cherry Creek School District would probably be that plan B.
Yeah, I don't just based on meetings I've been in, I don't know if Denver will be there yet by then or not,
Right. It's possible.
Mullen's in our league for basketball, and everyone in our league can have fans, but Mullen can't.
I know.
And so obviously that's strange.
Yeah.
But I just think by April with the vaccines and the slowness of that rolling out, I don't see them.
I know.
Changing it in time.
Yeah.
What I'll do is we have a stadium scheduling meeting. I just scheduled it next Wednesday at 1:00. So I'll put those dates on there as hold. What times? I mean, basically, you want me to block from like 3:30 to 10?
Yeah. Yep.
Justin, can you hear me?
Yeah. Yep. Go ahead.
All right, my camera's not working.
That's okay. No worries.
Updated my Zoom, and it's still not working. So I apologize that you guys can see my face. Douglas County can be option C as well. We now have 2 stadiums that have field hockey lines. So just keep that in the back of your mind.
Oh, good.
I don't want to take anything from Wilkins, but if you do need something, we have Echo Park and Shea that have field hockey lines now. So
and that's good to know. And that might be Plan B. I didn't realize. Yeah. Okay.
Wanted to let you know we could definitely give you a stadium, and we are in a variance of, and I think Wilkins is in the same spot, but we're in a variance right now of 50 fans.
Okay. Jim, do you want, who should I reach out to as far as trying to get a hold on those dates?
I can get a hold on them now if you want.
Okay. Yeah, that'd be great.
If you just send it to me, I can basically put a hold on those dates if you need to as well.
Yeah.
We already had our meeting. So, I mean, I'll just put the hold on those dates and basically, but we have 2 stadiums. So it makes it a little bit easier now that we have 2.
Perfect. And whichever
Justin,
is, yeah, go ahead.
I'll throw in, I mean, we're a little bit further south, but if we needed to and there was a hang up and we would be the only place that could, I would, between Baker and I, we could probably make it happen with Don Breeze. So
that's good. No, that's good to hear. We want
just as it's not as nice as the others. It's a little bit smaller. But even being smaller, we were allowed 175 and 250 during football season. And if our county grants that variance, it may be a better option. For
I agree.
Some reasons. But
I mean,
we might, again, we can make it happen, but just put us there just in case.
Yep. Go ahead and put a hold on that too. Would everyone in the committee be in agreement? And I think what we'll do is maybe we can just convene the committee, before a final decision on the site is decided. But for me, spectators almost trump all. I think just I don't want to feel those phone calls from moms that they can't, they can't, grandpa, they can't make it to a game. So for me, if Lance called and said, hey, we can get 300 people into the game, and Douglas County and Cherry Creek are saying, hey, we're still limited to 50. And we don't decide this today. We can come back as a group before we sign off on the final location. But for me, that seems like it would be worthwhile to go down to the Springs to play where we can get more people. Does everyone feel the same, or would people rather?
Well, I feel the same. We didn't do that for football, but that's a different story.
Sure.
But yeah, we got 450 in for football. So we could get a lot. My only concern is, and maybe that's why Lance is a good spot, is both our district stadiums house track and field programs and all that. And season D starts on that Monday. And so
we would hope.
I can move stuff and all that.
Yeah.
But
hopefully in the evening we'd be okay.
That's what I was going to say. LP would be practicing their track and field there, but I'm sure for a day. I mean, it's only for the finals, right? Is that what we were looking at? Or
semis and
so it'd be
finals.
2 nights.
Yep.
Like I said, we can see. I mean, they could go up, use our track if need be. We can figure something out. But again, I'll talk with Baker, but we'll.
Perfect. Yeah. So Jason, Jim, and Lance.
I would follow up and just say, and I don't know if you want to take a vote from us, but I would say whichever stadium allows the most people would be the one that I would agree with you 100% there, Justin, that whatever stadium allows the most people would be the one that you should pick.
Yep.
And I don't think it's going to be All City.
You're right. And listen, if All City says we can't have fans, we're not going there.
Can I throw a wrench in real quick?
Yeah, go ahead, Ashley.
Here's something that concerns me, just being April, and it's kind of a paranoia of mine, the snow. And so we want to make sure it's a field that allows plowing, because if we have one date to play a state final and a semi, it's got to be a stadium that allows the field to be cleared, because some don't. Yeah. That's my understanding.
Wilkins will shovel it. Wilkins will shovel.
Get out there, Wilkins.
Yeah. Hey, we'll plow ours. We have no problem
all the time.
We do it a lot.
Okay, good.
Yeah, I think all the venues we're talking are turf fields, so I would anticipate everyone would be able to. But don't bring up. We don't even want to talk about snow. No snow. But yeah, I think we'd be able to get that done. Does anybody feel differently that we should not go to a stadium? And again, I want to have a meeting with the committee before we, if there's going to be a change to this, because typically this committee would say, yep, All City seems like the right venue, but we're kind of in limbo now. So I'll bring this group back and say, this is what we're thinking. Does anybody feel like we should not go to a stadium, not go to the stadium that would allow us the most fans? Okay, so I'm not hearing any objections to that. So that, for me, I think that's, and it's probably just because I've gotten so many calls from moms and dads and grandmas and grandpas that want to go, and I understand how important it is. And so we do want to make sure that, especially when we're talking with all these, modifications, people, Mullins not allowing fans in. Some stadiums don't, allow only up to 50. So we want to get the opportunity for a championship event, semifinal and championship event, where we can get the most fans in there. And so we've got 3 holds: Douglas County, Cherry Creek, and then down in the Springs as well. And we will meet as a group as soon as we can get some clarity on I know there's some talking with CDPH. There's some counties that are applying for, I believe it's called the 5-star variants that might get them even, I was at a walkthrough at a stadium earlier this week, and they were talking about the potential to be in blue, which allows for like 75% capacity. So if that were to happen, maybe in the Springs, I know that they seem to be a little bit ahead usually with getting some of those. And so if the Springs was in a position where they could get 75% of their stadium in there, and we're at 50 people in Douglas County, in Tri-County or in Denver, to me, it seems like a no-brainer. Let's go try to get that crowd in there. So we'll meet as a group to discuss that before we sign off on that. But we've got 3 holds, which I think really we have 4 holds: All City, Douglas, DPS, Cherry Creek, Douglas County, and the Springs. And so between those, I think we'll be able to get a venue that will meet our needs. That's pretty much. Is anybody, committee members, any questions or any concerns or issues around bullet point 6.0, the 2021 season C COVID update?
I guess my only thing, and it's maybe it is our role as the committee, but most everything we've been doing this year so far has been in our league. We haven't been playing outside games very much or anything like that. Seems to me like this group is all over the place and in different districts, different,
field hockey's tough. Yeah. Kathy brought it up earlier. We're all,
how we're going to get organized with how we do gate check-in and how we do fans, whether people are charging, not charging. It seems like there's a lot of components to that. Maybe that's not our role as the committee to figure out, but I think we need to, maybe it's Richard's role to send something out and say, everybody, maybe we need to get some sort of document going of how everything's working.
That's the plan. So Jason, like the ice hockey document I sent out, the swimming document, the Google Doc where everyone's been kind of just going in and filling in what's up at their individual location. That's the plan for field hockey too. We'll send out that document and people can put in how, is there a separate entrance for, a separate entrance and exit, where do teams go? Where's the holding area if, you play in a district game? So we'll send all that stuff out for sure. We can discuss that at the preseason meeting, and we'd like coaches to get that in there. And then obviously if, majority of your games will be like in your group, 1, 2, and 3. So if you guys wanted to have a separate meeting as a group, we could help facilitate that. I could help set up a Zoom or whatever you guys needed to do. But I think that document that, kind of outlines what everyone's doing at their location should go a long way in making sure everyone knows what's happening at the facilities they're going to be playing at.
Sorry, I've seen about 8 million documents, so sorry.
I know it.
That's there, but are all of our emails and coaches stuff on that document as well?
Yes. Yep. Contact. Yep. The very top of it is all the contacts. So we have email and phone number of the coach, email. Whitney might know better. I know at least the email of the AD. I know some of the ADs were like, man, don't give my cell phone number out to these guys. So I don't know if we've got cell phone. I know we have cell phone of the coach.
Yeah, you did email and cell, just coaches.
Yeah, and it's just email of the AD, and then all of the information on each site is in there as well. And then we send out the distribution lists to everybody so that they can, we preached communication, open communication early before games. I know Lance, that was a big piece for Lance too in our COVID committee meetings, that he wanted to make sure that still was a thing where, hey, we've got this document out there that kind of walks people through what's going to be happening at the stadiums, but that should not trump the fact that a phone call still needs to happen or an email, but between the two schools to say, hey, this is what, when you walk into our stadium, this is what you can expect.
Sure.
Yep. So we'll have, as many different, pieces we can give out, we will, because it's going to be a crazy time. But field hockey, luckily, we have, only 15 schools. And so it's a little bit easier to manage than, say, football or basketball. Any other questions, concerns around 6.0, the COVID? All right. So 7.0 is just the major changes from last year's report. I just want to just kind of remind everybody that we will be out of this COVID nonsense, hopefully pretty soon. And we'll get back to normal. And the changes that this committee made last year were around the extended playoff bracket to 12 qualifiers. We talked about the RPI, the new seating format, which now brings the coaches poll into play. And Ashley and Kathy, you guys, making sure that you're getting with coaches and encouraging them as when the link comes out to sign up. We'll talk about the preseason meeting as well, but we wanted that human element back into the room. And so we do have a new seating formula with field hockey that has RPI, max preps, and the coaches poll all blended into one number that'll seed our tournament moving forward. And we're excited that it's going to be a 12-team tournament. I know the committee last time we met felt like the additional teams into the bracket would give some more schools the opportunity to, continue on in that playoff hunt throughout the year. And obviously our hope at the end of the day is just to keep, gaining more and more field hockey programs. I forgot to mention actually that I spoke with a former USA field hockey member a few weeks back who now lives in Boulder, who is going to be meeting with the athletic director at Boulder High School and the district athletic director for Boulder Valley Schools about the possibility of adding a program in that district as well, which was kind of exciting news. So field hockey seems to be growing. We're trying to get the word out. We're trying to do, I know this committee's done a fantastic job at being open to, some changes that on paper, maybe people say, whoa, 12 team playoff bracket, and you only have how many schools, but we're just trying to grow this sport. If we don't think outside the box, the sport is not going to grow. And I really commend that. This committee's done an amazing job at being open to those changes. And I think moving forward, we'll continue to look at adding programs, hopefully 2 more coming on if Boulder, or maybe even a 3rd program coming on. So we're excited about the possibility of more schools. So we didn't have any discussion points on 7.0 with any of the changes that'll be coming about in fall 2021. All right, perfect. So no additions to the agenda. Obviously, I wanted to share with everybody the proposed dates for the 2021 fall calendar. You guys can see all those on your screen now. Again, my hope is that we're back to normal with everything next year. And so this is what a schedule will look like based on the fact that we're playing fall field hockey and we're playing 15 games and we're back to normal. August 9th would be the start of formal practice. The 14th would be our first scrimmage date. We'd hope to, again, I don't know if Kathy's still on, but we'd hope to be back at Kent Denver for that sort of preseason fall festival that we've done, where we're able to do some training with officials and play some scrimmages, scrimmage dates. So that's always been great. On the 14th, the 19th would be our first contest. And then we would go until October 20th with state pairings released on the 21st. We'd go into that regional format of the games with the expanded bracket on the 23rd, into the quarterfinals, the 26th, 28th, semifinals, state championship, November 2nd, and then the committee meeting on the 5th. Now we would hope again that we would be back to All City Stadium, that we're back to normal, and we're not no more color dials. I know that the coaches like that surface, so I have All City Stadium down there, but I'm also open if we do end up going to a different venue this year, and coaches like that venue more, then certainly open to discussing maybe at a later date if a committee member came to me and said, hey, we were at Douglas County or Cherry Creek or in the Springs for season C, and that venue seemed to work out really, really well. Coaches liked it. Can we discuss the possibility of moving the state venue there permanently, or at least for next year? Well, 100% would be open to that conversation if we could just get this group together again to discuss the possibility of moving. But for right now, all the talk from the coaches at last meeting was that they liked All City. And so I've kept that, but that could change at any time. And I'm open to changing that conversation, after we see what happens with this season C. Any issues or concerns or questions around any of the proposed dates or for 2021? Perfect. Yeah, we'll hold off on communicating this out to the membership and the schools until we have a little more clarity on where we're at. Once we feel like we are in a place where 2021-22 school year will happen without the modifications that COVID brought us. We'll get this out to everybody, and hopefully get back to normal as soon as possible. Again, I mentioned at the start, there wasn't a whole lot this committee needed to do as far as agenda items, because we're, year one, we're in year one of a cycle. So there's not a whole lot to do anyways. And then this year in particular, with it just being COVID and not having played since our last committee meeting, there wasn't a whole lot that we really needed to do logistically, but next year there should be a full plate for us. But does anybody have anything else that they feel needs to be discussed or talked about before we adjourn?
Justin, I just had one question, especially because we have the issues of both COVID and weather. What is the seating and playoff requirements as far as canceled games? Is there a certain number of games that have to be played?
No, there's not. And that was a big thing, seeing when I looked at some of the numbers from the fall and how many teams went into quarantine, and we've got this really kind of just packed in schedule in 2021 with B through D, that I really had the fear that somebody might not be able to get to that number, or my biggest fear was that maybe some schools where they had an exposure to COVID, some kids would feel that they wouldn't speak up about their potential exposure because they wanted to get that game to get them to that minimum. So there is no minimum number of games. We've got, I think, 3 really, really strong data points that will support that to make sure that, the schools that have, are the right schools. Each league now, if you remember, each league will come up with their own seating criteria. Or each group, how we're calling it, I guess, leagues, to determine who their automatic qualifier will be. We've left that up to the groups because we know that there might be quarantine and everyone might not play each other. So we've told each group, go ahead and come up with the best way to get your auto qualifier into the 14 bracket. And then we've got a pretty good way with, now the human element. The coaches are going to know who the best teams are. They're going to be voting for them. That's, a third of the seating. And then, RPI and Max Preps in particular is going to do a good job in capturing, who the best teams are. And then we've got the RPI. And I think at the end of the day, we'll get a good indication of who that fourth team should be. Jason, yeah, go ahead.
So I run basketball for the Centennial League. So that's boys and girls. And we've had multiple multi-hour meetings about how we're going to decide our league champion, which is fairly irrelevant in basketball because 32 get in. And so the league champion is probably going to make it anyway. But so we've gone down all these different paths of looking at RPI and max preps and all those kind of things. And none of them are a great solution when you have teams playing uneven number of games and certain teams not playing each other. And so I guess my initial thought or concern is maybe our role as a committee, and maybe not, but maybe our role is we determine how these leagues are going to do that so they're all the same. So that, because I could see there be some angst this year with only potentially one team, likely for the majority, one team making it from a league. And I know you want to give flexibility, and I get that. And so I like that too. But I can see that not going the right way as well. And so, because I know you probably have done this a million times, and Ryan's on here too. The different formulas, I mean, I don't know, it gets interesting.
It does. I think, and if anyone else wants to chime in on this as well, I think that coming from hockey, having seen hockey and the proposals that they've put to us on how they're going to do their automatic qualifiers, to me, have looked pretty good. I think that there is a strong chance that everyone's not going to play each other. And I think that it's like, and that's where in hockey we said, okay, we're just going to count the first game towards, one game will count towards the standings. With an indoor sport, we felt really strongly that there was no way we would be able to get to 2 games played with everybody. And so I went ahead and made that decision there because just of what we saw around numbers with football and some of the fall sports, to us, it just, there's no way. I think in an outdoor sport, it's going to be a little bit easier. I think we won't have as much, especially as we move along the line and things hopefully get better. I don't think we'll run into as many of those issues, but if a league wanted to say, we're just going to count the first game I like the flexibility of the leagues to, each group, because, there's summer travel is different. So that, the ability to reschedule a game might be more difficult in some leagues than others. I like the idea of the leagues, each group deciding how they want to have their automatic qualifier. But if somebody on this committee feels like we need to put something out that is more uniform for every league, we could do that too.
I don't know. I don't know if there's a right answer. Like I said, we went through it all with, 10 people on a call and we still don't have we're like at the end, we're like, you know what? We're just going with the data point that is created by the CHSAA number. And we're just using that. Who's ever the highest. That's what we came up with in the end.
Lance, did you have some thoughts?
I just think that from my perspective as an AD, the thing I keep telling my coaches is playoffs or not, this year's different. Our main goal is to get the kids out there. And I keep trying to tell my coaches that, hey, the playoffs may not happen, even though you may think it, but bigger picture is we got our kids on the field, got our kids on the court. And the more our coaches can tell that to their kids and to the parents, I know nothing's going to be perfect. Everybody's going to be pissed about something, but I think if the thing I keep telling my coach, if we all have the same message, then, at least we're, I don't know, if we're giving that same message, then we at least have a leg to stand on with them.
I agree with the message. I completely support that. And I'm doing the same thing. I think it can get dicey if one leg's doing it one way, one leg's doing it another.
Yeah.
And then that gives people something to talk about when we're trying to avoid talking about those things.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm completely for, hey, let's just data points in the 3 leagues and then one at large. I mean, if we just do that, that's fine with me. But I would agree with you, Jason. If we just do everybody in the same thing as a field hockey group, we'd be in a lot better shape. Because realistically, how many of us are going to have a league meeting with ADs for field hockey? Unlike, my PPAG meeting meets every week. Very seldom have we sat down. I've never had a league meeting for field hockey, and the coaches have never really had this league thing before. So I think something coming from above would be easier.
I hate to open up a can of worms, but if all the field hockey coaches could vote, we wouldn't have a state title this year. It's because the focus is on the kids. It's got to be on the kids all season. And with all these meetings and decision making, I think it takes away from us coaching the kids and being present and, the confusion of building up to a state title that isn't really relevant. But I know we're going to have one. So
yeah, we are. I think that's great point. I think that we would want. I like the idea of letting a group decide what was best for them, but we can, if someone agrees with that, leaving it open to that group to decide how they want to have that automatic qualifier. If not, I can come up with basically some ideas that we had around, like some leagues reached out to us with ice hockey, and we shared some ideas that we had put in place, and we can share that with this group, and you guys can decide if that's what we want to, it just basically talks about, obviously, number one is, everything worked out great. We played each other, and the league champ is the automatic qualifier. And then we kind of just moved down the list on bullet points on tiebreakers. If we can't get to that point, I think a nice thing that we put out, like with what we recommended in ice hockey, was that basically, if you played a fraction of your schedule, you would essentially look at, okay, how many, like you get assign a number of points for, each win. And so if you, even if you didn't play a full schedule, if you didn't had you have played a full schedule, if you couldn't get enough points based on your win-loss record to even be in the consideration, like let's say you missed 2 games, but even if you had played those 2 games and won them both, it still wouldn't have gotten you past the points that the first place team has. Then you're not even in consideration. So you take out all the teams that aren't even, had they have played a full schedule, couldn't even have been a league champ anyways. You look at the ones that could have been a league champ if they were played all their games, and then you start looking at head-to-head there. And that was a way to kind of easily break it down. Okay, take head-to-head. So you only played one of the 2 games against each other. Who won the game? Okay, team A, you're the automatic qualifier. And then If there was no head-to-head there, then you go farther down in the bullet. Okay, now let's look at who's highest in the new seeding formula, and then if they're tied, which is not likely, then you go to the next one. So I can send that out to this group for you guys to look at, and if you like it, we can make it uniform for everybody. But I hate to, there's safety stuff with CDPHE that makes me have some more oversight than I like to have. I'm not a big oversight guy, and I don't want to overreach on some of this stuff. So I like to, when it's not around health and safety, I like to give the flexibility back to leagues and to schools to come up with their own ideas, because I hate to overreach on some stuff where we have to, because the CDPHE is asking us to. So this one isn't safety. So I want to give leagues that ability to say, no, this is how we're going to qualify our teams. But if we need to, as a group, say that we're going to have this for everyone, I'm okay with that too. So I'll send out that. What I'll do is I'll send this group out what we kind of put together with hockey. And if we feel like that's something that we want to make for everybody, then we can just in an email say, yep, I like that. We'll use it for groups A, B, and C. And we will discuss that at the preseason meeting that, hey, this is what we decided as a field hockey committee, that we're going to, for season C, we will use this qualifying formula. And if somebody doesn't like it, our group doesn't like it, then we can go back to letting the groups, or we can, come up with another plan. But
Justin, yeah, I don't like the hockey one. And I know that, I just don't like it because your season could be over after your first 4 games. So whenever you send it out, I'll make my argument as to the other side of that. I actually like just doing the data points, as Wilkins said, more than I like the first game counting and the second game not counting.
Yeah. Well, we didn't put anything out for the qualifying for the hockey. We left that up to the league. So the leagues don't have to use the data points if they don't want to. The only change we made for hockey was just, number of games that count towards the standings. And that was only because of the fear that we had around not everybody be playing and it just being a real cluster.
Right. So I understand why you did it. I'm just telling you the back end of that, and the problem that exists with the hockey one is that, like, for instance, we lost to Chaparral in our first game this week. And then, we play Valor Saturday. If we lose that game, our season's, the chances of us making playoffs are pretty much over. We're 0-2. And that's just about playing. And I get that from Lance's point, but it's sometimes tough to convince kids you want to just go play when your season's over after 2 games.
Sure. Yeah, no, totally. And the only thing I was going to send out on that we were going to use from hockey, it wasn't going to be like number of games that counted. It was just going to be how you decide who the auto qualifier is. It wasn't going to, I think what coaches push back on hockey was more about number of games, which I get. We that was just a concern we had looking at. Yeah,
you can send it to us. I just wanted to state that from my point of view. And
get it. Agree with you 100%. So we can send it out. If you guys don't like it, we certainly don't have to use it, but we'll get it out to the group, and then you guys can absolutely 100% give feedback, positive or negative. Any Jason, any other issues or concerns?
No, I think it just would be hard to do this year with 5 teams from 5 different areas that aren't used to working together, trying to get it together, and then if it's different, and then from my point of view, I already got enough problems going on this year. I don't need parents and everything else coming involved of how come this league and this, and
I know
they don't get that we're just trying to get kids on the field and complete a season like some do, but I'm just trying to figure out ways to eliminate problems before they come.
Yeah, that's hard. That's easier said than done. All right, well that's all we've got on the agenda. So if someone wants to make a motion for adjournment, we can do that. And, let you guys get back on with your day.
I motion we adjourn.
All right. Do I have a second?
Second it. There we go.
All right. Appreciate your time, everybody. We'll get the meeting minutes out here in a little bit. We'll send out that stuff around the qualifying so you guys can review it, talk about it. No rush. Get it back. Give us your feedback on it, and we'll go from there.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Justin.
Thank you.